So welcome everyone, thanks very much for coming to this lunchtime special talk on film locations in Hackney. My name's Gareth Evans. It's a real pleasure to welcome you to Sutton House, of course, where history has happened for a long time, continues to happen today, because we're going to try and bring 21st century technology into a 16th century or 17th century environment, I think. Whether it's digital projection, speaker association, or possible screen activity, we'll find out very shortly. But history, of course, never stops, and that's why we can keep having Hackney History Festivals here in Hackney. Many thanks to them for inviting me, and of course to Sutton House National Trust for hosting today. And of course, it's a real pleasure to be giving this trip, my first solo talk, since the declaration, of course, of the People's Green Republic of Hackney, which is an incredible thing, I have to say. What joy. History never stops. We're green now. Who knows what we're going to be tomorrow? We're green today. Let's hold on to that green and let's plant the seeds so it can only be green forever, as long as they stay cool. If they don't, then we'll get them out and we'll have another cup. Anyway, so there's not much green in this. I mean, there's bits of green, as we know, Hackney Marshes and various other locations. But film, of course, is a very anti-green endeavour. It involves loads of people standing around for a very long time on street corners, towpaths, and other locations. But of course, if they weren't standing around there, they'd be out of work. So there's already a creative tension between standing around and not standing around and lying on your sofa feeling depressed. Now that's the industrial level of filmmaking that we're going to be looking at. We are also looking at various other scales of filmmaking across Hackney, primarily in the last 50 years, from artist film to maverick hybrid experimental essay works, and also, of course, the TV series that some of you will know are filmed in this wonderful borough. Now, there's a number of strategies at work when a film is located in Hackney, as you will, of course, no doubt realise from the clips we hope to see. Some absolutely clearly identify Hackney, and they are saying, we're in Hackney, either dramatically or in a more hybrid artist essay way. Others, of course, use Hackney, like any film location, as a stand-in for somewhere else. And some of those somewhere else's are quite a long way from Hackney, as we'll find out. And actually, some of them don't exist in the real world as we currently configure it, either now or historically. They exist in a fantasy world invented by other people and pretending to be in Hackney for the duration of that scene. There are some great films. There are some terrible films. There are films that you'll know. There are films that you wish you'd known. And there are other films that you wish you didn't know. And we'll find out what some of those are. And of course, they're not the same for everyone. It's quite a Catholic selection here. And we'll find out what they are, thanks to, hopefully, very, very shortly, thanks to Ludo and Abigail and Ryan in absentia for the tech. Let's try, without any announcement now, the first couple of minutes of the first one. Shall we, Ludo? Let's try it.
Slowly move the trailer to the left. And I want the little girl to run across now. Hold that trailer there. Now, move the trailer off. Right, now I want the old man with white hair and glasses to cross the road. Come on, quickly. Look this way. Now walk off to the left. Okay, fine. Now let's have the man in the pink cap. Put the cigarette in your mouth. Good. And I want the two girls to come in from the right talking to each other. Now I want the Jamaican family. Father first. Look in front of you. Now the mother and the two boys. And I want the smaller boy to point to the right and now cast a glance behind him.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's Girl Chewing Gum, The Girl Chewing Gum, legendary foundational film by the great artist, filmmaker and Hackney resident for many years, John Smith. People seen that before? Girl Chewing Gum? Yeah, if you haven't, of course, it's on YouTube in its 12-minute glory. Please do see the rest of it if you enjoyed those first couple of minutes. Wonderful film by John Smith, just filmed just below Dalston Junction, if you're coming up from Shoreditch, on the left-hand side of Kingston Road, where until last Christmas there was a motorbike shop. And in March of this year, marking exactly the 50th anniversary on the 10th of March of its premiere, with the Filmmakers Co-op in Camden, Girl Chewing Gum was shown on a durational loop for about a week in the window of the actual motorbike shop that you saw there, which of course was not a motorbike shop there, it was a glass shop, a window shop. It was shown in the window of the actual property that it was filmed in. John Smith, crucial artist and essay filmmaker. He was 23 when he made this. It basically was a foundation of his many years career. 60 years now filmed and still going strong. Really an important film for thinking about place and relation to it. Now that of course is absolutely in Hackney. It doesn't say Hackney, but anyone who knows Hackney will know some of the shops. They'll know some of the locations, etc. Because then later in the film it cuts to another location, which I won't spoil. But the crucial thing there is he's embedding himself in place, as artists do, with more or less signage depending on what they're trying to do in relation to where you think you are. Now, very different films, of course, will take those locations. Let's think about Hackney in the 1970s. The trailers we've got are in order of time. So that was 1975 it was shot, 76 it premiered, and we'll go right up to 2025 with our final trailer. What the course film does, crucially, which you don't need me to tell you, is that whether they're filming a story, a narrative for that time, after years pass, it becomes an incredible time capsule, a documentary record, even if it was a fiction, of course, of the time and place in which it was filmed. Now, in some cases, those places that it was filmed in are no longer there anymore, and that's why film becomes even more valuable. And of course, there's a slight change in use there, but the shop itself is still on location. In the next film, next trailer we're going to see, that is absolutely not the case. So Ludo, if you're ready with the next one, let's see how that goes. This is now a trailer as opposed to a clip.
Boulanger, that redundancies cannot be avoided. You're not a British citizen, are you? I'm sure you'll understand we have to begin with foreigners.
Somewhere, somehow, sometime,
So, who's the one you want to get rid
of? I did someone wrong, and now I'm suffering with.
But if you want to change your mind, remember to get in touch with us in time.
Don't know just where or why.
What about now? Do you still want to die?
Great, there we are. So I hired a contract killer by the incredible Finnish, absolutely singular filmmaker Aki Kaurismäki. Now this is a slightly elusive title in his now 20 plus something works because of the rights issues when it was made. It didn't appear, it was the only film not to appear in his very significant major box set from Curzon a couple of years ago. It's slightly wayward in availability. And that trailer was actually made by a fan. It wasn't an official trailer, because there is no official trailer for the film either. And so the trailer was made by a fan, and the film is also, while being wayward and slightly elusive, like some places in the city are, is also embedding and embodying demolition in its own subject matter. It was made in the early 90s, and many of the locations have completely gone, altered beyond recognition. But the plot also has a crucial demolition aspect to it. You might recognise, if you're keen on French cinema, Jean-Pierre Léaud, the famous French actor, starred started his career with The 400 Blows by Truffaut. Major French actor with many titles to his credit. A rare British excursion here for this one, where he plays French employee of a very dour, downbeat clerical operation who's let go because he's a foreigner, of course. Belts are tightening in the later 80s, early 90s, and he's so depressed that he takes out a contract on his own life with a classic East End hitman who he meets in the bar that you saw earlier in the trailer. The problem is, when he meets Margie Clark, well known from Letters to Brezhnev, his life spirits pick up again. He decides to cancel the contract, but he goes back to the pub and it's been demolished. So he now can't cancel the contract and now has to dodge with increasing rapidity the absolutely set on his mission hitman who you saw briefly there, who will never let a job go undone, even if the person doesn't want it done anymore. I won't spoil what happens in the later part of the film, except that it's really a fantastic film, and it's amazing for London locations on the Isle of Dogs, around Whitechapel, Stepney, and so on. But also, crucially, on and off the spine again, following Girl Chewing Gum, of Kingston Road. Now, you heard Joe Strummer come in the second part of the trailer there. Now, Joe Strummer, of course, lead singer of The Clash. And he was playing in the scene in the film at 544, I think it was, or maybe 554, Kingston Road, in a bar that is no longer there, where Jean-Pierre Lo's character goes in to have a few whiskies to try and work out what to do. And at the end of the narrow kind of shop front bar area, there is a little stage at the back, and Joe Strummer's playing there to almost nobody. But he's just playing away. That's a very charismatic thing. We did see some West London action when, in the early hours, we saw the character wandering in the rain with towered locks behind us. That's over in West London, near the Westway. And of course, that's what film does. Even if it declares that it's, in this case, in London, they never say the word Hackney or the Isle of Dogs, etc., but they're absolutely in London. They're, of course, compacting and colliding and creating a false London that doesn't actually exist in geographical terms, as it appears to do between edits in the films. So that's a very particular example of how you kind of have an expanded version of the city compacted to a much smaller area, as the narrative and dialogue of characters' movement suggests. Now let's see the opposite of that, which is an extremely tight and compact version of Hackney on this trailer now. Thanks. Yeah, let's do that.
Come on, get out!
Colin is having a very bad day.
What are you doing Monday?
His family isn't doing much better. From Mike Lee, the Academy Award-nominated director of Secrets and Lies, Career Girls, and Life is Sweet.
That's the washing machine. That's the dryer.
A bittersweet comedy of life in the working-class streets of London. And the story of a family whose hard luck is the only luck they have.
I told you, Deborah, open it!
Starring Gary Oldman of Air Force One and Bram Stoker's Dracula.
They made me quiet.
Tim Roth of Pulp Fiction and Gridlock, and Alfred Molina of Before and After and the Perez Family.
You ain't getting one, because you're an ugly bastard.
Just when you thought life couldn't get any worse.
20 years of clothing, you fiend, you whopping your noses, whopping your asses.
What you talking about? When do you ever wipe their asses?
Meantime, they're one big happy family.
Thank you, Lujo. So what that, I mean, that's amusing for a number of reasons. Mike Lee, of course, TV drama this time from 1984. Meantime, starring obviously some of our finest actors now in some of their earliest roles. Tim Roth, of course, Gary Oldman. Interesting. It's an American trailer, of course, as you will no doubt have realised, trying to sell inner city council house Hackney to an American audience, and trying to boost it up as a happy family kind of dysfunctional operation, where actually almost everybody watching that trailer will have no idea literally what's being said, let alone any cultural reference to the landscape show. Interesting, they said that Gary, you know, they always name the films that actors have done previously. So Gary Oldman, well known for Air Force One, which is clearly not something that is very high up on his CV, but it sounds, and he's American, so that's probably enough, right? So now that is filmed almost exclusively in and around the now demolished and rebuilt Haggerston Estate, just south of the canal, between Kingston Road, we're just moving off Kingston Road now, and Broadway Market. Just off Wiston Road, just on the south side of the canal. in the area of the estate, which has been remodelled, like I said, radically and drastically, and was, again, in the spirit of demolition within the film, was being knocked down during the filming. If you ever walk on that canal, as thousands of people do every Saturday and Sunday, from Borough Market to Angel or the other way around, you will see the railings, a crucial scene in the film, on the towpath, the railings which have been bent like that, open, and Tim Roth sticks his head through them in a crucial scene on the canal, and you too can do that. Those railings are unchanged since 1984. They were in place before. We should say no railings were harmed during the making of Moontyme. Mike Lee, of course, renowned for his improvisation, said to Tim something like, I guess, "Tim, what do you think you should be doing here?" He said, "Well, Mike, I think I should probably put my head through the railings." And then Mike Lee would say, "That's a good idea. What do you think, Gary?" Gary said, "Oh, I like that. That's a good idea." And so they did that. They did that, and of course we had the masterpiece that is Meantime. That's TV drama, of course. Mike Lee, an absolute giant. There are lots of giants in today's trailers who went on to do all sorts of incredible things. Now we're going to see another localised trailer shortly, but this allows us to think about how buildings have been used in various ways, not just locations or declarations of Hackney or otherwise. Buildings have been used in different ways. So that was, of course, a very local area. You know, if you didn't know where it was, you wouldn't know that you were in Haggerston, etc., etc. But of course, there are some crucial flagship Hackney buildings that have been used, as I said earlier on, for very, very different things. And I'll just run through a couple of those options for you now. So the Hackney Empire, of course, we all know well, beloved and restored and saved venue, crucial part of Hackney cultural life. Hackney Empire has stood in various ways for the Lyceum Theatre in Stan and Ollie, the wonderful film starring J.C. O'Reilly, isn't it? And what's his name? The guy who does all the... Steve Coogan. Steve Coogan, thank you. Velvet Goldmine for a quasi-Bowie gig. Chaplin, obviously the eponymous biopic. Riff Raff for Ken Loach. Tall Guy with Jeff Goldblum and Emma Thompson. Bridgerton, as obviously a costume drama theatrical site. And perhaps slightly unlikely, Captain America. A crucial scene in Captain America, Avenger of Justice, which I don't think is even something you can actually do. I don't think you can avenge justice. I mean, maybe you can. I don't think I want to be on the receiving end of what it looks like. And also, perhaps most lost, I mean genuinely lost, unless you've got it in your attic. Orson Welles famously moved between stage work and film direction, obviously to great effect in both areas. And he did a West End production of Moby Dick in the early 50s, in 1954-55. And he wanted to turn it into a film. So many unrealised projects, of course, as we know in Orson Welles' career. And he filmed, apparently, 75 minutes of rushes inside Hackney Empire, which had been lost, but declared to have happened by various actors, asked later what happened, how was it working with Welles, etc. It was great. They're confirmed to have happened, but nobody can find them. So if you know somebody who has them, from 1955, then let's get them back in circulation. 75 minutes of Moby Dick inside Hackney Empire. Hackney Town Hall has been the background to a lot of things further away. It hasn't really been celebrated so much itself in film as a specific location, except in two very different films. She, a Chinese, by the wonderful filmmaker and award-winning writer Zhao Nu Guo, who lives just behind the town hall. And Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. It's in that. So that's a crazy double bill. Wouldn't work that well for both sides of the audience, but maybe some people will see things in that collision that certainly I haven't, and I don't think either of the filmmakers had either. Rattling through before our next one, Shoreditch Town Hall, Death of Stalin. I'll leave that to your imagination. Simpson House on Kingston Road, or Stone Newington Road, which is now beyond retro. Die Another Day, as Pierce Brosnan went in to get a jacket, stayed in to film his appearance in Bond. Elephant Man was filmed in Easton Hospital. Anyone know where Easton Hospital is? Anyone know? It's now underneath Homerton Hospital. It was not down and is now Homerton Hospital. It was meant to be the Royal London in Whitechapel, but they filmed it in Easton Hospital. This isn't it is an iconic venue. Actually, I love it. The tram depot, of course, just north of Clapton Lea Bridge roundabout, was a crucial scene. This is what I mean about slight extension of possibility for a building. In Tomb Raider, massive, huge in Tomb Raider, the tram depot, Freezing Artist Studios, but nice coffee options on the outside. So I guess Lara Croft, everyone needs a break, right? So she had a coffee at some point in Tomb Raider. And the Petchy Academy, not quite an iconic building perhaps, but an important one, of course. This is where the kids went to school in In-Betweeners. So that was obviously significant for them because it's one of the most successful films in British cinema history at the box office globally. So obviously they loved that in America, In-Betweeners 2 as well. Ludo, let's have the next one if we could, and then I'll talk about it afterwards. Thank you.
Muscles Club. This is Kaz coming to you live on Soul Patrol.
Great, thank you, Ludo. So that's Young Soul Rebels, the 1986 debut feature by Isaac Vereen, who's now moved away quite quickly actually from narrative drama after making that, and is now one of our most successful fine artists, working with moving image, of course, on multiple screens, installationally, and so on. But really important film in Hackney film history because, of course, it fully centred the black community in Hackney and also the queer community in Hackney, and it moved of doing that between Homerton and Dalston. Very important for thinking about how representation in Hackney works, of course, because in the conversation with Ken, we were made very clearly aware that actually Hackney was a hugely diverse borough well before more recent incoming by various populations. And so that to see that centred, with a major release, it was premiered at Cannes, was a really important moment. Mid-80s, of course, a strange time for culture because there was the massive funding coming from the Greater London Council to support all sorts of previously marginalised communities culturally, with film and video and performance workshops and galleries and everything else, and lots of education and literacy outreach. But it was at the heart of the Thatcher period, so there was a strange tension there, as of course also televisually with Channel 4, which was created by the Thatcher government in 1982, and then went on to have its golden age decade, producing very radical anti-Thatcherite, arguably certainly anti-Thatcherite ideology in terms of its cultural content and material. So very interesting tension there. And crucially, like I said, to have that film at Cannes, debut feature, was really an important one for thinking about what film can do in Hackney terms. We're marking now 2 weeks after the 40th anniversary of the abolition of the Greater London Council on the 30th of April, I believe, 1986, which then saw a very different kind of cultural agenda come in to the city, regardless of the party in power. That cultural space, that cultural fund of possibility radically altered, and we arguably have found our way from that point now to where we are now, where it's incredibly difficult, obviously, for artists, makers and creators of all kinds to actually have studios and work in the city, and obviously in Hackney as well. So we're going to stay with the black community now. We're going to move to TV, if we could, with the next one. Thanks, Ludo.
I was born and bred in Summer House, 26 years old. Got nothing else to be except this. You know who I am, innit?
Everyone knows you, Shane.
We done warned you about commanding them London fields, man.
Shane, you're not listening. Yeah, Bobby, £3
Do you have a history of mental illness, Lisa?
Looking at me.
Do you have any children?
I don't want to be shy.
It's all there, man.
You got 2 minutes.
Let me run Summer House. All them little stunts you pulled before, coming and taking man's food, can't happen again. What are you doing, man?
Have you known me? I don't come nowhere just to talk.
Is someone looking after Renelle?
Can't even visit her. If they find out about me, they put me in care.
And we're your family now. Man, think of all these lot as your cousins. Man, we look out for you, fam.
You have to be very, very careful. Can't tell no one, especially not your mum.
I'd really appreciate if you left Renelle Smith alone.
What's Renelle Smith got to do with you?
You're a friend of my dad's.
I ain't seen Wayne in a long time.
We've got this place in Finchley, it's all set up.
You better know what you're doing. That's a lot of money.
At least it's good to see you being you again.
It's good to be me again. I don't know why, but I never thought you'd have children. You won't regret it. Having Renel's the best thing that ever happened to me.
You know why you ain't rolling with my team?
It's because I'm smart. He told me he was going around Gems to do homework.
He's just growing up so fast.
Yeah, too fast.
Why you coming up here chatting shit?
Shane, doesn't understand why
Can you hear me now?
Yo.
You've been robbed twice. What are you trying to do, make an habit out of this?
Gonna get your money back, all right?
You got 2 weeks.
Don't try and act fucking rough, you know. Shut up when I'm talking.
Don't you ever go near my son again. Do you understand?
Great. So Top Boy, written, created, and screen-run by Roland Bennett, a great Irish writer with his own incredible history of relationship to Hackney. He's been here almost 50 years, since the mid to late 70s. And famously, he got the idea for Top Boy when he was going to his local Tesco's on Wells Street, which of course is the site of the original Tesco, the first ever Tesco on Wells Street. Was built back in whatever the 1920s. That is the mothership. Not that you know it from the current Tesco, which is absolutely appalling. That one, I have to say. And they haven't even got a plaque on their own wall about the origin there. So maybe they don't even know. Anyway, that's where it was. The name coming from the founder's collision of his parents' names to make the Tesco. And that's so Ronan was going to pick up some milk in the morning one day, and he saw 2 kids pass a wrap between them in a beautiful sort of hand movement gesture, and he hadn't ever noticed that. And then he suddenly, when you see something, you start to notice it everywhere. Realised that there was a whole drug network of exchange between younger and older kids and adults and so on, moving around the borough. So he wrote Top Boy, which went on to become a very successful, of course, award-winning series in its first incarnation. And Summer House Estate was the estate imagined in the series, and it was imagined and declared to be in Hackney. But it was filmed in a number of places, primarily on the Haygate Estate in Elephant Castle, which is now, of course, radically altered, to say the least. But the original series was also filmed in De Beauvoir Estate, Dalston and London Fields. Then, of course, Top Boy was let go and was in a kind of limbo for a while, until Drake, the musician, executive produced and partly financially enabled its remaking in its new incarnation with Netflix. Interesting story. I know Ronan Bennett a little bit, and he was saying that when he got that call, he was just giving the kids dinner, and he got a call to go and meet somebody called Drake in a hotel in Holborn. And they said, "Where are you going?" He said, "Eat this. I'll be back soon." They said, "Where are you going?" He said, "I'm going to meet Drake." They said, "What? You're going to meet Drake?" Early teens. "You're going to meet Drake?" "Yeah, do you know him?" "I'm going to, yeah. Drake, do we know him? Can we come?" "No, you can't." Eat your dinner, and of course the rest is televisual history. So yeah, Top Boy keeps going, of course. Now it's filmed on the Samsuda estate on the Isle of Dogs, which allows for the obviously the generational hand-on of building architecture, etc. But also gives, crucially, a real sharp and stark tension between obviously the class and opportunity possibilities, or lack of, for the community portrayed, with the towers, obviously, of Canary Wharf behind them in a very stark contrast. So the Samsuda estate on the Isle of Dogs is where Top Boy is now. But let's think also very quickly about some other TV series, of course, that you will surely know and probably love in some cases, that are being filmed here. Luther has regular Hackney locations, including the Hoover Shop, which is an important part of the story. Mr. Loverman, the Bernardine Evaristo adaptation, was filmed in the Duke of Wellington pub in Haggerston. Baby Reindeer, of course, notorious series in all sorts of ways. The pub there, meant to be in Camden, of course, where the main incident started to happen. It was actually the Stag's Head in Orseman Road, just off Kingston Road, on the Islington side, literally 100 metres from the main road. Killing Eve, all over Hackney, all over the place. I mean, from the Clapton Hart to Victoria Park to specific shops. I mean, just a huge number of locations. Now, why is it that Killing Eve, let's say, just to pick one at random, is filmed in Hackney? Now, of course, we've noticed a demographic shift in Hackney over the last 30 years. And one of the biggest group of incomers are media types and creatives. Now, if they're looking for a locational place to film, they arguably want it within walking distance of their own house, apartment, or coffee shop, which is why I am sure Killing Eve is basically almost exclusively filmed, apart from when it's in Siberia, Istanbul, in the Middle East, or whatever, in Hackney. So that's very interesting to see, and you can chart probably the moves between mid-morning coffee and maybe drinks before closing in the Killing Eve locations around the city, and particularly around Hackney. Now, if you want to go and have a look at some of these locations, there are many, many more, of course. This is about as extensive and about as authoritative as imagining a porter cabin on a piece of waste ground compared to St Augustine's Tower. That's how authoritative this documentary presentation is. Basically, there's a hell of a lot more out there. And there are films that you've loved to say, why hasn't he mentioned that yet? Well, I've still got a few more. Maybe I will. But there are so many. And there are 3 websites that particularly you can bring together and cross-reference. Movie Maps, London on Location, and Reel, as in film reel, R-E-E-L, Reel Streets. And they are incredible resources. I mean, some of them, particularly Reel Streets, is absolutely obsessive. It will go through the whole film and take every screenshot of a new location, tell you what's changed, what then and now, all that sort of stuff. Other ones will just do listings, but it's a fascinating list. Now, if you think about TV, one of the most famous TV series, and arguably kind of placing a sense of Britain, not just London or even England, but a kind of sense of 70s culture in the UK on screen was Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, remade wonderfully, actually, by the guy who made Let the Right One In. Thank you, in 2010. As obviously a feature-length work, starring Gary Oldman, of course, he famous from Air Force One. Gary Oldman as Smiley, as George Smiley. And one of the key scenes in that, of course, is the safe house, which they finally locate and therefore do their various forms of entrapments in the later part of the film, which is 4 Corbridge Crescent, which is right on the canal, just past the gas holders. If you're walking towards Victoria Park, you're on this side where the towpath is, just across there by the late lamented Empress Coaches. It's a double bay windowed house, freestanding, now being restored. But that is where the safe house is in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Nothing else in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, the film, is anywhere near there, but that is. Let's stay with the canal very briefly, of course. Arguably the finest rom-com set on a canal in the 2010s. Anchor and Hope, a wonderful cross-generational, cross-cultural rom-com set on a narrowboat, was filmed obviously all over the canal-based areas of Hackney. Named Anchor and Hope, of course, after the famous freestanding pub on the way to Springfield Park, as opposed to Hope and Anchor, in which case there would be many, many more places it could film in. But Anchor and Hope is a much rarer inversion of those two words. And so if you like canals and you like Spanish-English romances and you like views across the marsh to the pub, then that is the film for you, Anchor and Hope. Maybe 5 years old now, I mean, yeah, something like that. Let's think about a giant before we go to our next clip. A giant, a contested giant of Hackney, Harold Pinter, of course. Crucially went to Hackney Downs School and now is memorialised on the house of his birth on Thistlethwaite Road, just opposite the Clapson Heart, of course, which is where Killing Eve was filmed, as I mentioned. Now, Harold Pinter loved Hackney. He had a difficult relationship with it, but he felt it was a real place that had lots of stuff going on in it. And crucially, when The Caretaker was filmed, very early on in his career, The Caretaker was almost immediately filmed after being such a huge hit. It was filmed just off Hackney Downs. The house is no longer there, but you can find The Caretaker online, as you can find, obviously, if you know how to, most of these films. And you can get a real sense, obviously, of Hackney Downs and the surrounding area through the Pinterest lens. Very different from the view of Hackney that you'll have from the Anchor and Hope romance that we just talked about. Let's think about that idea of history, lost histories, and go with the next clip if we could. Thanks, Hugo. We'll stop shortly after this one.
An allotment in Berlin was a very expensive proposition, Astrid said. Across the little bridge on the private island of Manor Garden, Prohl took photographs of the sheds, the plantings, the crops that would never be harvested. It was a melancholy business. We looked through the fence, beyond huts assembled from driftwood and the panels of abandoned cars, at coloured ribbons marking out future stadia, media concessions. Small groups wandered the half-abandoned plots, hacking through green tangles that would soon be dug up and flattened to become part of a perimeter fence. It was heartbreaking to see the huts on the Manor Garden allotments, because there was such human enterprise and individuality in here. It was like a series of wonderful sculptures and self-portraits. And the moving thing was that there were no people, that the huts themselves were humanized with their sad roses outside and thorns, and they were scrambled together from detritus and sometimes from remains of things that had been there in the war, bits of concrete bunkers. It was like bolting together all the damage of London and making this incredible multivarious village in which all kinds of people had lived and worked and communed and made food and gathered, and it was a tremendous human reservoir, a great spirit of a place, and to see it all blasted away for this thing called legacy, just to be part of the Olympic borders and boundary fence, and to see the people expelled to some barren corner really was soul destroying in every way.
So that's a very powerful artist film by Emily Richardson called Memo Mori, which is about 20-25 minutes and has two major parts to it. It has the commemoration, arguably the only real extended record of the amazing Manor Gardens allotments that, of course, Hackney chronicler supreme Ian Sinclair talks about, which were obviously disposed of, demolished and completely altered to make way for the Queen Elizabeth Park. An absolute example of the kind of, the squatted, make-do, maverick, alternative way of being in the world that Hackney supports and exemplifies historically. That's the first part of the film. And then the second part is a Hells Angels funeral on Hackney Road. Some of you will know the Hells Angels HQ for London is just around the corner from the Premises Cafe, halfway along Hackney Road. Premises, of course, a famous recording studio. Many giants of contemporary music have recorded there. And then just next to them, Hells Angels, who also have their own rather troubled history in relation to music, particularly with the Rolling Stones concert in Altamont in 1969, which arguably signalled the death of the 1960s. So they've got something to think about, and that's partly why their slogan above the door of their HQ is almost exactly right. Loved when we don't cause trouble, hated when we do. And that's fair enough, right? I mean, it applies to most people, but I don't know why they're kind of getting all big about it. But anyway, maybe they feel they have to declare it even more, right? Because they're Hells Angels. And of course, importantly, they're Hells Angels without the apostrophe. Just Hells, right? There's Hells, there's no apostrophe at the end after the S, and there's none between the L and the S. There are many Hells, of course, and they are the angels of all of them, clearly. So there are two really important documents there. It's an artist film, it's not a documentary film. I haven't included any conventional documentaries here, of course, because there are many documentaries, clips on the BBC where the cut glass accents of the presenter are standing in front of, a so-called sink estate where he says, incredible that people still live like this in the 2010s. There are no coffees to be seen anywhere. And people are talking in other languages. Those sort of clips, of course, there are thousands of those, and we're not celebrating those today. We are celebrating the more maverick ways of portraying the borough. I'm moving into the home stretch now. Very much, so we've got two more clips for you. And then just to think really briefly a little bit about the origins. I've focused all the clips from the 1970s onwards here. It's harder to find, obviously, the buildings and the locational shifts of earlier films. Many of you will know, if you're wandering around the Shoreditch Park area, that the Gainsborough apartments, of course, were the site of the Gainsborough Studios, incredibly important inner city London studio complex, as opposed to the more familiar ones now outside of London, West London and beyond, Shepperton, Pinewood and Elstree and so on. Gainsborough Studios, Hitchcock, of course, crucially made early work there, and that's why there's a massive head of Hitchcock in the gated courtyard of Gainsborough Studios, which you can see from the towpath or from Shoreditch Park, enormous head of Hitchcock to mark that. And some of the films that came out of Gainsborough Studios all around that time, Hue and Cry, the Ealing comedy directed by Charles Crichton, and Odd Man Out, directed by Carol Reed, in which a younger James Mason, playing a radical in Belfast, has to flee to the East End to disappear. And again, both those films would be shot in Hackney. So as I said, we're moving to the home stretch now, and let's think about an alternative way, as opposed to those very pejorative documentary clips I just mentioned, of thinking about a celebratory Hackney. If we could have the next clip. Thanks.
I was very well pleased with what I knowed, and I reckoned myself no fool, till I met with a maid on the Brookland Road who turned me back to school, singing low down, with a little green lantern shine. Oh maid, so you've done with the all but one, and she can never be mine. 'Twas right in the midst of a hot June night, with thunder dancing round, I spied her face by the fairy light that beats from off the ground. She only smiled and she never spoke, she smiled and went away. And when she'd gone my heart was broken, my wits was clean astray. Oh, stop your ringing and let be your Brookland bells. You'll ring old Goodman out to the sea before I wed one else. Old Goodman's farm is rank sea sand and was this 1,000 year, and it shall turn to rich ploughland before I change my dear. And old Fairfield church is water-bound from autumn to the spring, and it shall turn to high hill ground before my bells do ring. Oh, leave me walk on the Brookland Road in thunder and warm rain. Oh, leave me look where my love goed, and perhaps I'll see her again, singing low down, with a little green lantern shine. Oh, maids, they have done with the all but one, and she can never be mine. Singing low down, low down.
Thank you, Ludo. So that is Estate, a Reverie by the German, now British filmmaker Andrea Luca Zimmermann, one of the key filmmakers really, along with John Smith, in terms of thinking about place in Hackney. Both still making work, major bodies that speak to each other, films across the work, different works, and kind of build up this really incredible picture of what it is to be responding to real place in Hackney in artistic ways. So that's the Haggiston Estate on the other side of the canal from where Meantime was filmed, part of the larger sharing the name of the Haggiston Estate across both sides, which was demolished in the early 2010s. That film is now the record of that estate, which had a very checkered history, was treated very badly by Hackney Council before it moved to LMQ, the housing charity. And the film captures all the different layers of history of the site. So there are elements of what was there before in various ways over the centuries, fed into a kind of reenactment of the utopian possibility of what social housing promises. As you saw from the definitions of the word estate that came up in the trailer, there are many ways of thinking about what an estate is, of course. Not just a country estate of great landed wealth, but of course the estates of the city, but also the idea of who can say who belongs where and who is allowed to call somewhere home. So these films also, while tracking completely different narratives in some cases, are also records of how the city allows the place to be portrayed. A film shot very close to Estate is Rocks from 2019, which follows a group of young teenage girls around Ridley Road, de Beauvoir Estate, etc. And again, does in its own way for that community at that point what Estate and other films are doing for theirs. Another absolute kindred spirit would be Sally Husseini's My Brother the Devil from 2012, doing a similar thing. So the film, I think, it can obviously create spectacle. It can create a wonderful sense of otherness and elsewhereness and fantasy. It can stand in for properties that are radically distant from Hackney. But of course, at its best, I think, it's both acknowledging the place it's in and lifting it into another kind of heightened reality, which of course is what culture, creativity, and particularly cinema can do, giving us a sort of temporary elsewhere where we can think, in the case of the state, about the other possibilities of the site and what kind of city, kind of borough might we want to live in. If you'd like to see 5 complete artist films, including John Smith, Andrea Lucas Zimmerman, Emily Richardson, who made Memo Mori, and Andrew Cotting, the well-known filmmaker, and Francis Scott, 5 filmmakers. I'm hosting a programme at Castle Cinema on the 2nd of June at 6:30, where we'll also launch a small publication I've written about artist film in Hackney to mark the 10th anniversary of Burley Fisher books. So 2nd of June, and all the artists will be present to be in conversation about their films. Different films, apart from Memo Mori, different films than the ones we've seen now. So let's go into the final clip, and I'll leave you with the final clip. I'll just set it up for you briefly, if I may. So obviously, we're in Haggerston here, across the road, across the canal. Mike Leigh made Meantime. He stayed in Hackney for his crucial film of early 90s Despair, Naked, starring David Thewlis, where the central house, which many of you will remember, I'm sure if you've seen the film, is still there at 38 St Mark's Rise, just off Shucklewell Lane, a very distinctive two-staircased, freestanding house, which is well worth a look if you have seen Naked. 38 St Mark's Rise, just on the right off Shucklewell Lane. Auteurs have been drawn to Hackney in all sorts of ways. Michael Winterbottom, very well-known British filmmaker, of course, has made 2 films in Hackney. The Look of Love, about Paul Raymond, the Soho erotic entrepreneur, was partly filmed here. And also Jude, the adaptation of Thomas Hardy, was also filmed in Hackney. And David Cronenberg, perhaps very distinctively renowned in the London Fields area for Eastern Promises, his slightly prescient film about Russian oligarchical and gang infiltration into London. But he also made earlier a much less well-known film starring Ralph Fiennes in 2002 in the streets, very distinctive streets, treeless roads, small cottage roads behind Columbia Road, called Spider, from a Patrick McGrath novel, which is well worth checking out if you're interested in locational histories. David Cronenberg there making 2. And if you think now about the most successful television screenwriter showrunner currently working, Stephen Knight, who of course created Peaky Blinders, well, he road tested some of these earlier themes with his film Dirty Pretty Things, filmed in Ridley Road Market, starring Chiwetel Ejiofor, and directed by Stephen Frears in the mid-2000s, which looks at the kind of undercurrents of migration, illegal migration, etc., and how people hustle to make do in the inner city in Dirty Pretty Things. So we also have to remember, in criminal terms, proper criminal terms, not just the hustle of people trying to get by, that the Cray twins, of course, were born just round the corner, literally round the corner from the Haggerston estate on Steen Street, which is the road that you look onto when you come out of Haggerston Overground. Steen Street, again, the house is all gone now, but the Crays started their deadly journey through the city from that street. 2 films about the Crays, of course. One, Legend, starring Tom Hardy twice as both brothers, and The Crays, starring the Kemp brothers, identical twins more or less, as the Crays, both filmed in Hackney. They were real criminals. Whatever we think of them, they actually existed and they did real criminal things. Let's think about a different criminal now with our final clip, which I witnessed the filming of. Back to the canal, we're staying very close now. Some of you will know Jason Statham, one of the finest actors of our generation, and arguably wishing that he was credited with Air Force One, as opposed to Gary Oldman. Well, Jason Statham very quickly has made a lot of films, and most of them are literally unwatchable, including this one, which is why you don't need to watch it, because this trailer is the only trailer I've ever seen that shows, as you probably know, long trailers will show most of the film. This really shows every crucial scene in the film, including right to the end, and the terrible kind of, well, not the terrible, but the kind of justice climax. This is what avenging justice probably looks like at the end. Incredible scenes here. Jason Statham very quickly plays a special agent who's who's kind of had enough of that world and is now a building manager on big tower block, office block construction. But when the daughter of the guy who's given him the job goes missing, he has to call in all his mates to go and find her. And what he uncovers is way more than just one missing girl. That's the plot, which you'll find out about very quickly about. However, one crucial scene was filmed on the canal right next to where we're talking about with Meantime, next to the Bridge Academy and the studio complex, some of you will know, which has sharks in front of it on the canal. And that's where Jeremy Corbyn chose to do his final eve of general election speech in 2019. He hired that space, and look at the result that happened the following morning. Should he maybe have been somewhere north that actually really needed to be acknowledged as opposed to a hipster event venue on the canal? Probably. Anyway, that's history. That's history. More history always. There's always history, isn't there? It's always happening. And anyway, they hired the venue and the surrounding area for 6 weeks to do 2 scenes. One where Jason Statham is chased across the park just behind the Bridge Academy, and the second where people are shot and fall into the canal on Queensbridge Road Bridge. They were there for 6 weeks. They had more vehicles, I tell you, than most festivals have. They were there, and wonderfully, young Asian kids were in the security at all the various points. As soon as I lived close by, as soon as they started setting up, I asked the kids what the film was. They didn't know, they hadn't been told. Did a bit of Googling, found out what it was, and told them, and then watched with great pleasure each morning when I walked our dog, when people would come up to them and say, "What is filming?" And they said, "I'm sorry, I'm not at liberty to say." But they knew. And it was this, and it was called Levin's Trade then. He's Levin, and now he's called A Working Man. So thank you very much for listening and for coming to this event. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks to Hackney Festival, to Ludo and Abigail, and everyone at Sutton House for making it possible. I'll leave you now with A Working Man.
So listen, today's gonna be hard. Let's all go home with the same amount of fingers that we came with. Let's get it. When my wife passed and I left the Royal Marines, a lot of people would have given up on me. You gave me a job. You were patient with me. You, Carla, Jenny, you're my family.
Excuse me, it's not your business.
I'm good, boss.
Levin, was that some military shit?
Hey, you didn't see anything.
Just get my back if I ever need it.
Jenny's missing.
She went out with her friends on Friday.
The police don't have the resources to work these cases. They take a report and forget about it.
Please, find our daughter.
Where's the girl?
You a cop?
You wish I was a cop.
Yo, these guys are next level.
Look at those bricks. You ain't a cop. You're a working man.
That's right. Let's play. This isn't just some kidnapping. This is human trafficking. Remember Gunny?
Your blind war buddy that doesn't know he's blind?
That's the one. You shot a foot to the left, I'll be dead.
I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. I will be your weapon sommelier for this evening. This is the real beast here. M14. Pulled direct from Saddam's palace. Then I added a Bluetooth scope.
Where is she?
There's a special place, high rollers only. They can do anything as long as they pay.
Gangs, the mob, corrupt government officials, they're all involved in human trafficking. You're in the payroll too.
You killed your way into this. You're gonna have to kill your way out of it.
Food as much.
All of this is for a girl.
I'm not stopping until I bring her home. That's for slapping that woman.
That woman was my wife.
That's for slapping your wife.
Who are you? What are you?